In 2009, the FBI opened a counterintelligence investigation into a Russian national named Igor Danchenko. And at the time, he was working for a liberal think tank in Washington, D.C., the Brookings Institute. It was alleged that Danchenko was selling classified information, but only 2 years later, in 2011, the FBI closed this investigation when Danchenko left the United States, which begs the question, where did he go next?
This is where Christopher Steele comes into the mix. In 2016, Igor Danchenko began working for Steele's private intelligence firm named Orbis. His job? Make up anything linking Trump to Russia. Steele, who was funded by Hillary Clinton and the DNC's personal law firm Perkins Coie, ultimately used Danchenko's bogus findings to compile the infamous and now discredited Steele dossier.
A couple months later, the FBI interviewed Danchenko about his bogus findings. Those meetings resulted in an indictment against Danchenko for allegedly lying to the FBI. But this is where things get really interesting. In a new bombshell unsealed motion to the court, Special Prosecutor John Durham revealed that the FBI had actually hired Danchenko as a secret informant back in March of 2017. So basically, the feds were paying a Russian to lie and claim that Trump was working with the Russians. Typical. Accuse your enemies of what you're doing yourself.
Joining us now is former FBI agent, former Navy SEAL, and the author of Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, Jonathan Gilliam. Jonathan, thank you for joining us.
Good to be with y'all.
I just couldn't believe this story when we were reading about it. Why would you believe that the FBI would bankroll Igor Danchenko and hire him as a secret informant? And also, who at the FBI would have made this call?
Well, first of all, if you had Morgan Freeman read that intro that you all just did, it would be like the greatest intro to a movie, a spy movie you would ever hear. I mean, this is unbelievable what we're seeing here. And I tell you, the question, Mercedes, that you just asked is why. I think the question should be who. Who is the one that recruited him and paid for him? Because what we're seeing here, we know when we look at this, we know that he's Russian, Danchenko is Russian. We know that Steele worked, and when he was with British intelligence, he was with the Russian squad. And we know that the squad that that handled the dossier, the fake dossier, has to be the person or the group that paid for this individual to be a source. And that's the Russian squad out of the DC field office. So right off the bat, these connections here and the deep workings between the United States and Russia from an intelligence platform is such that nobody else could kind of get into the things that they're getting into. And so right off the bat, when I look at the fake evidence that was created by this same squad, the same squad that I'm alleging are the ones who hired Danchenko, what we see is evidence of a conspiracy with all these people. And I'll tell you that timeline that you went over with Danchenko, the way that when he worked for the Brookings Institute, and somebody said that they thought he was stealing or trying to get top secret information. The FBI investigated him, and then he left in 2011. So at that point, we're supposed to believe that the Foreign Counterintelligence Division of the FBI just stopped investigating this person. That's not the way it works. And so I believe he was a human source all the way back to 2011.
Right.
So why did the FBI even think that they could trust these individuals? I mean, or do you think it's possible they were in on the Clintons' plan to get Trump?
I don't think it's about trust. I think what you're talking about is a section of the FBI that is working with these people. They're conspirators to for a political aim, an ideological aim. And so when you look at it from that direction, right, which is when you look at it from an investigative direction, you have to look at this. And it doesn't come down to why the FBI would trust this guy. It comes down to why would certain people in the FBI employ this person or these people. Right. And it was strictly to create fake evidence. That's what it was for.
But I'm still shocked that the FBI would even hire these types of Russian nationals. I mean, do you believe that there are currently any more of these Russian nationals on the FBI's payroll? I mean, given all that's happening in Ukraine and obviously the United States sanctioning the Kremlin, where do you think the FBI is on having additional Russian nationals?
So that's an excellent question, but it's one that we have, again, to look at from investigative platform. You know, you're not going to find out stuff about Russia by hiring somebody who lives in Colorado. You have to hire Russians to find out about Russians. You have to use sources that are dirty. That, to me, is not something that I'm concerned with, because foreign counterintelligence, that's the way that they work. Just like when I was on a criminal squad, we had criminals that were, you know, bad people, and we would use them, flip them as sources, and buy guns and drugs or whatever, and then develop a case. The issue is that these individuals and what they were involved with, and the group within the FBI that they were involved with committing this fake evidence dossier, and the way that it was used to further an investigation is very alarming. But when you look at the same squad carrying out the Mar-a-Lago raid, what you see now is a pattern, just like if you were looking at a bomber and you would say, they're going to use this type of bomb over and over again. These conspirators, these ideological conspirators, are using the same squad in the FBI over and over and over again. And I just think that what we're looking at is they're using the system to do their dirty work.
Yeah, and you nailed it, Jonathan. You talk about the raid at Mar-a-Lago. I mean, can the FBI's reputation recover after this? How does it recover? It's
not going to recover. I mean, the left doesn't care about the reputation of the FBI. The FBI is a tool for the left right now, as far as we can see. I believe that the FBI should be taken out of D.C. I think the D.C. field office should be disbanded. I think headquarters should be disbanded. I think a leader for the FBI should be taken from the ranks, never to be in D.C. I do not believe that there should be a political appointee heading the FBI. This is how we got ourselves into this situation. And I say the same thing about the CIA or any of these other agencies. They don't need to have any type of relationship with D.C.
Jonathan Gilliam, always a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you.
You got it. Thank you.
Hey guys, it's Rob Carson. September is historically the worst performing month for the stock market, so you better be ready for it. The Fed continues to aggressively raise rates, and JP Morgan is forecasting another mega rate hike September the 21st. Is that why Jamie Dimon said an economic hurricane is coming our way? Well, gold and silver have remained remarkably stable despite the Fed aggressively raising rates today. The Patriot Gold Group has a special incentive for Newsmax viewers. Huge! Now precious metals investors can enjoy the no-fee-for-life gold and silver IRA on qualifying rollovers, or enjoy free, discreet, insured shipping on all direct gold and silver purchases. Here's the number, 800-356-4470. Call 800-356-4470 today.